I am a music educator in the Burnaby School District. I was in the UBC MET program, and that's where I got my introduction to Twine. And I really fell in love with it and have continued to use it for myself and for my students um, since then. And I'm really excited to share some of the things that you can do with Twine in your own practice or with your own students. And yeah, I think I'll just jump into a little introductory presentation. So for those who don't know anything about Twine, we'll start at the beginning. What is Twine? It is an open source tool for creating and telling interactive and non-linear stories. So I often liken this to those old choose your own adventure stories where you get to the bottom of the page, and if you want to take this action, turn to page 73. If you want to take another action, turn to page 94. And you've got multiple branching storylines and endings that you can achieve within that story and replay it or reread it multiple times for multiple endings. So Twine does that in a digital format on the computer. And it is a really cool tool because in order to create these branching stories, you do not need to know any coding. You don't need to be super tech savvy at all. But if you want to add extra features to your story, make it even more interactive and more personalizable, you can start to learn some basic fundamentals of coding and add that in. And Twine's got a really good interface for introducing those concepts and making your stories even more rich, even more interactive. So why choosing Twine? As an educator who really loves using this stuff with my students, I love that it's open source and completely free to use. It doesn't require an account to sign up for. You can use it either as a browser-based program, or you can download it and run it offline with no internet. And the things that you create in Twine, if you want to share that with someone else, they don't have to use Twine or import it into Twine. The things that you publish out of Twine are just HTML files, which are the standard the file types used for web pages. So anything, any web browser that can go on the internet can also run your Twine story or your Twine game. So can everyone see? I've got a little Twine game up here with a black screen saying you are so hungry, your tummy is rumbling, you need to eat a sandwich. This is a silly little game slash story that I made just to show some of the features of Twine. It's a great interface for doing fun, rich text features like moving text. And you'll notice that on this first page of the story here, we've got choices that as the player or as the reader, we can go through to navigate this Twine game or story that's been created. So we can navigate through a house here. We've got options to go to the kitchen, bedroom, living room, grocery store. So if we're hungry, we want to go, let's try going to the store. You walk out the front door, it's a nice day. Do you drive to the store or take the bus? Let's try driving to the store. Try to open your car door, but it's locked. You need your keys. Okay. So let's go find some car keys. We're going to explore the house. So this is showing how we can navigate through a Twine story by just clicking hyperlinks, which is very, very easy to create. And I'll show you that as we'll start to build a story together in a moment here. So there's a fridge. Oh, maybe there's food in the fridge if we're hungry. The fridge is empty. Okay, that wasn't helpful. Go to the bedroom. There are car keys and a wallet. So we'll take both of those. Okay. Now, previously, when we tried to drive to the store, it said we did not have our car keys, but now drive to the store. We've got the keys. We're allowed to drive to the store. Drive is uneventful. A couple of sandwich choices to eat. We'll buy the big sandwich. Sandwich is delicious. Oh, picture not working there. We had a little money counter there. We had $5 in the wallet. It's gone down to just $1 now. If we try to buy another sandwich, cannot afford the sandwich. We can go home. And one other little feature of this story slash game, if we go to the living room, let's dig between the couch cushions. Don't find anything this time. Let's try digging again. You find $1. Can mine for coins in the couch. So just a silly little story game loop that doesn't really have an ending to it. It's just eating and getting hungry again. But just to demonstrate some of the navigation using links and hyperlinks in the story there. And this is to a page on my blog where I've got a variety of stories that I've created or co-created, and I'd like to unleash all of you to take a few minutes and explore through some of these. I might recommend starting with the first one, interactive story examples. There's a couple of very different and very short examples there. Druid's Apprentice is another very traditional Twine story / game, but it's pretty long. Uke Composer is a music tool, so not a story or a game so much. Time Traveler is a personal shopper. That's another kind of traditional story that changes depending on the choices you make. A couple other tools that, as like teaching tools that I've developed that you're free to take a look at here too, just for some variety of examples of what you can make with Twine. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and begin a little demonstration of how to build one of these stories or games. I'm gonna pop a link into the chat here. It might be easier to just watch my screen, but if anyone wants to go ahead and start exploring this on their own, you can go ahead. It's twinery.org is the website. As I mentioned before, when you are using Twine, you have the choice of downloading a desktop app or just using it right in your browser. Both versions are exactly the same, so I'm just going to use the browser-based version right now. When you first go to the Twinery site, it'll ask you if you want to do a tutorial. Probably skip that for today because I'll be your tutorial at the moment. I already have a few projects that I've made before. Your story library will be empty. So in Twine, whether you're making a game or a story or a tool, just the language they use is they call everything a story. And when I'm talking about someone reading your story or playing your game, I'll kind of use the words player or reader interchangeably. When you want to create a new story, there's a little new button up at the top, and we'll give our new story a name. We'll just call it New Adventure, Create. And inside of Twine, inside the editor, you'll see this blueprint looking space with this little white box that says Untitled Passage. And this little box, this passage, this is kind of at the core of how we construct our stories. I like to think of passages as being like pages of a book. If you double click on this white square, this passage, it'll open up into an editor. Sorry, I got the chat and video kind of in my way here on my screen. There we go. And we can start writing our story inside this passage editor. So your name is, I'll just pick a name here, Alex. You are wearing a red shirt. You are going on an adventure. So as an example story, nothing too exciting. This text that we've written into the box, it's automatically saved. It's part of this passage now. So if we were to play the game or read the story, we go up to the top menu here, go build, play. And the text that we just wrote is now showing up. This is what the end user would see. Your name is Alex, you're wearing a red shirt, you're going on an adventure. Now this, not a very interesting story so far. We're going to give a reader a couple of choices. And this is the one thing that looks a little bit like coding, but there's really not much to it. To create a link, so a clickable blue text that the reader can make a choice with, we're going to do 2 square brackets. And we're going to write some text there. So walk out the door. And then 2 square brackets to close that off. And within the Twine editor, 2 square brackets open and 2 square brackets closed creates a link to a new passage that the reader will be able to navigate to. And you can already see in my background here on the blueprints, a new passage has been created called Walk Out the Door, with a little arrow from our first passage leading to it. In fact, let's rename this first passage. I'm still editing the first passage. Undo passage. Rename. We're going to call this start. Now we've only given one choice, so maybe we'll type another text choice in here. Instead of walking out the door, maybe we can stay home. Yeah, maybe you are maybe going on an adventure. And again, any changes that you write in your passage, they're automatically saved. You can see our stay home passage has been generated just by writing in double square bracket, stay home, double square bracket to close it off. That link and the passage that it links to are automatically created. So once again, we're at build, we'll play the game. And now here are our two choices. And as a reader, we can click through, we can click walk out the door. It's a blank passage. We haven't put anything in there yet. There's a little back arrow by default on in Twine here. So I'm going to go back, undo that choice. Let's try our other choice, stay home. We also didn't fill that out yet. But okay, we've got the starts of a story here. So let's go back to our editor. Let's go to the walk out the door passage. And one thing I really like about Twine is all these passages, you can move them around and organize them however you want, however it makes sense for your brain. And again, this view with this blueprint kind of thing, this is just what you're going to see as the creator and the editor of this. What your reader or player is going to see is just what you get when you press that play button. So let's say walk out the door. Let's double click that passage, open it up. You go have a fabulous adventure. The end. Very short story for the example. And we got to put something in the stay home one. So you stay in, watch TV, and have a nice, cozy evening in the end. All right, let's play through that. I'm always a big fan of anytime you change anything, test it out just to make sure that things work the way you expect them to. So if we choose in the story to walk out the door, you have a fabulous adventure at the end. Great. Let's undo that choice. Let's try the other option. Stay home, stay and watch TV, have a nice cozy evening and the end. Great. So this is the basic functionality of Twine with the double square brackets to create a link. And this already gives huge opportunities for creating really complex stories, because rather than just having two choices, we could have essentially an unlimited number of choices from this first passage. And rather than having each of these new passages be the end of a story, this could in itself have more options. You go and have a fabulous adventure. Maybe we go adventure in the ocean. Could be one choice. And then go adventure in space could be another choice. We do a third one. Go adventure at the library. And again, each time we create one of these double square bracket links, you can see the new passages are created with arrows leading to them. And with a little imagination, this can go a long way and create a very complex story. So that's Twine's kind of basic functionality. And when I'm using this with students, this is the first thing I really start with, is having them plan and map out a story with branching possibilities, multiple endings, different choices that lead to those multiple endings. And that's all without any more coding than just those double square brackets. Now, just with that functionality, we can make it look more interesting too. Within the editor, anytime that you're using Twine, there's this bar here with all these great options for changing the, your typical text styling stuff, plus some cool options that Twine has, like an outline, and you can have moving text on the screen, text that blinks, and colored text and all that stuff. So you can have a lot of fun with the text as a more, I want to say, it's not an interactive element, but yeah, more interesting element than just the words themselves. So getting into then some of the actual coding stuff, I'm going to introduce an idea called variables. And well, actually, I'm going to back up for a second here. You'll notice that when I did that text styling on the your name is Alex, using the menu here, I highlighted it. I went and I can't remember what I did. Let's go with double strike. This menu helps automatically add some coding that will be used in your story. So we've got all this here, text here, double strike in brackets, and then square brackets around what's being affected. In older versions of Twine, you had to kind of type this out manually every time, but with this menu bar that's been developed in past versions, it makes it really easy to do all these decorations without having to memorize and type in the code specifically. You'll notice that anything that you're doing, you've always got some sort of an open bracket and a closed bracket again. And this is one of the biggest things to watch out for in terms of not making any errors that'll mess up your code, is just make sure that you're keeping track of what is inside your brackets, because you can put brackets inside of brackets. We can take all this double strike through text, including all the code, and we can put all that inside, say, a color feature. Let's make it all green highlighted. So now inside green, I tap on this first square bracket here, everything that's being made green. It's including the double strike through code, which doesn't show up other than affecting the text there. And if we play this, double strike through, green background. Maybe not the most readable choice, but to get the point across that we can highlight all that green stuff, and we can do another text effect on all that, including all the code, and we can rotate the text upside down. That's gonna be hard to read. Let's play through that. Yeah, so I'm making it unreadable right now, but if you make smarter choices than I just made, you can have that be really enriching for the text environment. So all these codey bits, I'll call them, that are inside the rounded brackets, Twine calls these macros, and these are things that affect elements within the game, that changes the text, changes things that the player can interact with. And then inside the square brackets is what Twine calls a hook. And a hook is essentially just saying to Twine, I want you to start here and end over here, and everything inside those square brackets, I want you to affect or change in some way. And so Twine's typical format is it'll have a macro telling you what to do. So rotate this text, and then inside the hook, square bracket, everything inside that hook gets rotated. Things that are not inside that hook do not get affected. And a lot of that stuff can be done kind of automatically just through the menu here. But a little bit of coding, I use quotes, but that can be done through the menu here, but I kind of like to do it manually, especially when I introduce this with students. It's the idea of variables. And a variable is a stand-in value that can be replaced with any other value. It's kind of like in algebra when you have 5 plus x, and x can be anything. And the best way to demonstrate it is just to show you. Let's say we want to be able to change the shirt color that our character is wearing. You're wearing a red shirt. I'm going to create a variable called shirt color. And to do a variable, we start with a $sign. And I tell my students shift 4 because some of them are not as familiar with keyboards. So shift 4 for $sign. You are wearing a $sign shirt color. And you notice that in my editor, shirt color is blue, showing something special is happening there. This is now a variable. You are wearing a shirt color shirt. If we just play the story as is right now, it's going to say you are wearing a 0 shirt. We've never defined X for this. We've never told the game what shirt color's value should be. So let's add a little bit of coding at the top of this passage here. We're going to use a variable called set. And as I start typing it, Twine already Actually, I don't know if these drop-down menus are showing up for people, because I know sometimes on Zoom calls they don't show up. There's a drop-down menu that's kind of showing the set macro as an option here. So set $ shirt color to, and we're going to set it to, let's set it to red. Quotes, and we're going to open bracket, I'm going to do a closed bracket. So I've got a little set macro here, set shirt color to red. And what this does is when this page first loads up for the player, oh my goodness, what a typo. The shirt color macro will be given the value of red. So if we play this now, where it said before, set, you are wearing a shirt color shirt, you are wearing a red shirt. And we can go back and change shirt color to rainbow. And play. You are wearing a rainbow shirt. So this can be done with things like player name, where instead of your name is Alex, it could be your name is $player name. And all throughout the game, you can have characters talking to player name, and that will get replaced with the whatever value that we want to put in as the player's name. Now, right now, I'm doing this as on the coding end. This isn't very exciting because, oh, why not just write a red shirt or a blue shirt? This is only kind of interesting if we let the player or the reader have some say over what the shirt color is. So let's rewrite this a little bit here. You are wearing, your name is Alex. You put on a shirt. Before going on an adventure, before maybe going on an adventure. And let's choose, do we put on a red shirt or put on a blue shirt? So this is one way of giving a player a choice of changing a variable. Right now, we haven't actually set that up. It's we just have passages called put on a red shirt, put on a blue shirt. Let's go ahead and make these passages contain something that's going to change our variable. So I'm going to go to the put on a red shirt passage. And I'm going to say set red shirt. No, sorry, shirt color to red. And I'm putting the word red in quotation marks here because this is what Twine calls a string, basically just regular text. It's not a number that can be used in mathematical equations. It's not another piece of coding. It's just we just want the word red. So the quotation marks are important for that. So set shirt color to red. And I'm just gonna have, let's go have from here, we'll go to our walk out the door passage. So another neat thing too, once a passage exists, if you do double square brackets and start typing the name of that passage, it'll be suggested as an autocomplete option. As well as having multiple choices to branch away from a passage, you can have multiple different passages branch back to a passage too. So let's do the same thing. I'm just going to copy that, put that in the blue shirt passage and change the color blue. So set shirt to blue. And let's go to our walk out of the door. You have a fabulous adventure in your shirt color shirt. All right. So what we have here is a starting point where, I'm going to get rid of these options here. Starting point where our player chooses what shirt they want to put on. Each choice takes them to a different passage. One passage has code that will set the shirt color variable to blue. The other one will set it to red. Both of those passages lead back to this next step in the adventure, which is walk out the door, and their choice will affect the story and it'll tell you which color shirt you're wearing. So let's just test that out. Start. Put on a shirt before maybe going on an adventure. Let's put on a red shirt. Walk out the door. You have a fabulous adventure in your red shirt. Okay, let's undo those choices. Test the blue shirt one. Put on a blue shirt. Walk out the door. You have a fabulous adventure in your blue shirt. So all throughout the story, if the shirt color is important, you can refer back to that using that shirt color variable. Another way that you can have the player interact with variables is having them actually enter their own values. So let's go back to the player name here. Instead of saying your name is Alex right off the bat, I'm going to erase that sentence. And I am going to use one of the drop downs from the menu here. I'm going to go to the macro drop down. And I'm going to go to input. And our default kind of input is a text box. Initial text, let's say, I think we leave that blank. Dialog box. And here we go. We're going to bind the input element to a variable. So we're going to check that variable player name. So now we've generated a little bit of code here. Input box, bind player name to, and we have some just kind of blank space to start with. Let's play through this. This should, when we play through it, oh, they've done it that way. Okay. Some options have changed a little bit since the last time I did this. Let's try that one more time. Macro input. Oh, dialog box. I think that's what we need. Player name. Name here. Okay. So this changed a little bit since the last time I've done it. There's always more than one way to do things in Twine. So let's try it this way then. Okay. We'll go back to the way I was doing it. Okay, so let's go. Write your name here. We've got our input box. All right, so write your name here. As soon as you type anything into this box, the player name variable that we just created gets set to whatever you write. So right now it's James. We can put that in our story somewhere now. Walk out the door. You, player name. Okay, there we go. So you, $ player name variable, go have a fabulous adventure in your shirt color shirt. So James will put on a blue shirt, walk out the door. You, James, go have a fabulous adventure in your blue shirt. Okay. So a couple of different ways that we can have players affect variables and make choices within the story, either with input boxes where they can type things in, or by having them navigate through different choices in the story that when they land on a page will set a variable to a certain condition. Another way of doing this as well is we can actually, let's say we go on an adventure to the library. We can create a link that not only takes the player to a new location or a new passage, but will also set a variable by clicking on it. So actually, maybe I'll pause for a second. Are there any questions so far? And if I'm moving too fast or not being clear about stuff, please let me know. And if people want to chime in with that on the chat or even just unmute and call out, that's fine too. All right. So let's do another type of link here that will change a variable as well. And again, I'm going to use the drop-down menu here, macro link. So question here. Go back to setting the shirt color. My sample isn't working. I'm not sure what I missed. All right. So yeah, just to go over that again. What I did to start with is I just had 2 regular links, put on a red shirt, put on a blue shirt. That will take you to different passages. And if you go to either one of those passages, so I'll go to the red shirt passage. At the very top of the passage, I put in this code, which is bracket set shirt color to red. And again, it's very important that this part here is in quotation marks, unless it's a number that you want to do some math with. Like if you're, scoring points or health points or something, and you want to be able to do math with the numbers, then you just want to have the number by itself with no quotation marks. It'll turn red to show that's a number, but in this case, we want just the word, was it red? Yeah. So making sure your word is in quotation marks there. And then the other thing that was important here is this passage, this put on a red shirt passage. When we play through this, you always want to make sure that unless you're at the end of your story, the end of your game, you always want to have at least one link on a page that'll take you to the to another passage. Because if we had this say just set shirt color to red when we arrive at this passage, then the player's stuck. They can't go anywhere else. They can't proceed in the story. And actually, I'll leave that like it is for a second just to show. Put on the red shirt. So I took out the link. Right now in the background, we can't see it, but in the background that variable has been set, but we can't go anywhere. And if we press this undo button, it's important to remember that this isn't like a navigate back button. It's a undo the last choice. So this will actually undo the setting of that variable. So when we press this, our shirt color is no longer red. So I'm going to paste that back in. So we got a link to go to proceed in the story there. So a fun thing that I like to do as a first kind of test for students figuring this out is to do a story that has a secret passage element where you need to find a key somewhere in the story in order to open up a locked door. So we can take our adventure that we have here right now. Let's say if we go to the library, let's fill out this passage here. The library door is locked. So if we want to make this conditional to whether or not we have a key, we can do an if statement, which is another kind of macro. By the way, all the macros and any coding stuff I'm talking about, you can find a manual that I put together on my blog, that page that I first sent you to. At the top of the page, there's tips, tricks, and best practices for Twine. This is something that I put together and tried to keep fairly updated over the last couple of years. And inside that document, it's basically a giant compilation of what I personally feel have been the most useful bits of code to know. And one thing I'll say about this is, although I've done lots of Twine stories with lots of coding, I don't remember all the macros. I don't remember how to type most of the code other than a couple of the most used macros like the if statements and set statements. I'll show you the if one in a second. So I often go back to my own document and just copy and paste the code. And it's not cheating. It's something that it's there to be copied and pasted and then modified and customized for your game. And the other thing that I've done a lot in putting this together is I've gone to the official Twine Harlow user manual, which is, I didn't even know NeoCities was still a thing until I started doing this, but it's hosted on NeoCities. By the way, Harlow, you'll see this sometimes in Twine. There are actually different coding languages that it supports. Harlow's the default one. So if you just open Twine and start using it, you're using Harlow. If you're looking for things online, another very popular language you'll see is SugarCube. And that any coding from SugarCube will not work in Harlow and vice versa. I find that Sugar Cube, at least last time I checked, it didn't have the nice menu here that kind of helps you with assisted coding stuff. So it's not quite as beginner friendly. For advanced users, they say it's a lot more powerful, but I haven't run into too many roadblocks with Harlow with the default one yet. Anyway, so let's say the library door is locked. Let's say we want to create a version of the story where the door is locked until you have a key and then you can open it. So we're going to do another macro here called an if statement. So we go bracket if with a colon. Say $key is true. So if we have the key, if key is true, then square brackets for what happens if key is true. You open the library door and read all the books. And then we'll do a contrasting one here. If key is false, the square brackets for what happens there. Then we'll take our library door is locked, paste that in there. So let's quickly test that out. Play through our story from the beginning. Name is Bob. Wearing a red shirt, walk out the door. You, Bob, have a fabulous adventure in your red shirt. We go to the library. Oh. You know why nothing's showing up here? I just realized. Because key is neither true nor false right now. Key is undefined. We never defined it. So let's actually fix up this code and make it a little neater here. Something we can do here is we can say else. So if key is true, you open the door. Else, so anything other than true, the library door is locked. That should fix that up. That's why I always test everything. Trial and error. Red shirt, walk out the door. Go to the library. The library door is locked. Okay, so that's working well so far. And let's create a link that goes back to our walk out the door page. I think we'll make that kind of a little hub so we can explore around. Again, reason for doing that is without this, we play through the story, red shirt, library, walk out the door, library. I didn't have any links originally, so you hit this dead end and you're kind of stuck. So always make sure you're not creating dead ends unless you really want to be the end of the story. So we'll do double square bracket, back to the walk out the door. Now, I want us to be able to go back to the walk out the door. You have a fabulous adventure and you choose where to go, but it doesn't really make sense if we're standing at the library, the door's locked, and then we walk out the door. So we're going to name, I'm going to show you something else we can do here that's very handy as we're getting started. We're going to name this link something else, even though it's still going to go back to our walk out the door passage. So I'm just going to do a vertical line, shift, and then that little key that's between backspace and enter. And we're going to call this one go back. Oops, I did that backwards, sorry. We want to say go back and then have that vertical line, and it'll take us to walk out the door. That's right. Okay. So we've done what's called a named link here. The player is going to, in fact, I'm just going to hit test. If you don't want to play through a whole story, you just want to test a single passage. Well, here, test from here. It's right on the passage too. So this will say go back. But instead of taking us to a passage called go back, it's going to take us to the one that was called walk out the door. Now, again, because we started in the middle of the story, we didn't have a chance to define our name yet. So our name is 0. But for testing the feature, we were testing that work just fine. So, and I'm going to take that go back, walk out the door thing. I'm going to add that to the bottom of all these other passages here, just so we always have a way of going back to where we want it to be. Okay, so go adventure in space. Say you meet some friendly aliens. They like your shirt color. And bring that back again, shirt. just to keep those choices we made relevant in the story. You meet some friendly aliens. They like your shirt color shirt. And say goodbye, player name. Oop, player name when you leave. All right. Oops, something in the chat here. Can you show how to start a specific page again? So Kendrick, can you clarify that, like creating a new passage or having the story start on a different passage? Oh, sorry. Testing. What I was just doing. I see now. Testing from a certain place mid-story. So when you're editing a passage, so right now I'm, yeah, Go Adventure in Space passage. There's a button in the editor, test from here. So if I click that, it'll show what that passage looks like to the best of the game's ability. Again, taking into account we didn't play our way up to here and we didn't define the shirt color, we didn't define our player name yet, but we can see, okay, the go back link works. Within the Twine editor, you can also do the same thing. There's a test from here button if you are under the passage tab, but yeah, open up any tab and you can test from here. And again, if there are undefined variables that you didn't play through yet because you're starting in the middle, they'll show up as zeros. So we've got something happens when we adventure in space. We involve the shirt color and the player name that our player got to choose. Let's go adventure in the ocean. And maybe when we're in the ocean, you find a cool shipwreck. And maybe we will do this. I'm going to do a variable called link. Actually, I'm going to use the macro drop-down menu here. Sure, yeah. So macro link, we're going to do a special kind of link. This link is not going to take us to a new passage. We're going to use a link to set a variable. We're going to use this to set our key variable that we can go open the library with. So macro link, create a hyperlink with this text. So we want to say, search the ship. Search the shipwreck. And we do not want to go to a passage. Instead, we are going to reveal an attached hook. So again, a hook is just a block of text within some square brackets. So basically what we're saying is we're going to keep a little bit of text and code in reserve that's not going to be revealed or shown until the player clicks on this link. And then after it's clicked, remove the text, link zone text. Okay, that'd be cool, yeah. All right, so we're going to add this. So we have a link called search the shipwreck. So that's the text that will be seen. And when it's clicked on, your text here will happen. Instead of your text here, we're going to say, you find a key and we're actually going to have to put in the code to set $key to true, close bracket. And again, this is the one it's available within the drop-down menu. If you go to macro and then is it really under list all macros? I usually don't use the drop-down menu. For setting variables, I usually just type it out. So again, that's bracket set $, whatever your macro name is, to true. If we test from here, you find a cool shipwreck, search the shipwreck, and I think we set this up so that this text will disappear and get replaced. You find a key. Good. Also, when we're in test mode, you'll notice there's this little debugging toolbar down the bottom, which is really good for making sure that all your code's working behind the scene. So you'll see, actually, yeah, let's run that one more time just so we can see test from here. So right now we've started on our under the sea scene. We have no variables at the moment. If we click search the shipwreck, now $key has been set to the Boolean value of true. And Boolean is just computer logic, like true, false, if, and. So we know that that's working. And actually, I think we can start from this point in the story. If we go back to our main page, and now if we go to the library, because key is true, you open the library door and read all the books. So now we've got a version of the story where we can, yeah, let's restart the whole thing here. Build, let's play the story. So we have a little story or game where we can name our character. We can choose what color shirt we're wearing. We can go have an adventure where our shirt color and player name is involved in the story. It's customizable. We can go to locations that are not accessible. Doors locked until we go find a key. Go to the ocean, search the shipwreck. You find a key. Go to the library. You open it and read all the books. And so, as well as having branching paths of story, with the variables now, we can have even more ways for a player to interact with the story and customize it. So actually, I'm going to go to my library now because this was just a quick example that we're building on the fly, and just to show you what a bigger one of these stories might look like. Here's the first big Twine project I ever did. It's full of things I would not consider best practices now because I was figuring it out for the first time then. I'm still figuring stuff out now. But if I open up the Druid's Apprentice, you'll see lots of passages here, lots of cross connections. This was a big, long group project. Actually, I think, is there a way to zoom out here? Yeah, there is. There we go. So they can get pretty hard to follow if you're not kind of visually organizing things. So I highly recommend that while you're creating your story or your game, you want to make sure that all your passage names are meaningful to you. Your passage names are not going to be seen by the player necessarily. Let me go back to what we were just creating. New adventure, was that what we were doing? Yeah. So when you create a standard link, yes, if you create a standard link, what you type in there ends up being what the player sees. But if you wanted to have a passage that it was important for you to know that this passage was called, the bad ending to the game. Let's go name it that. Bad ending. You lose the game. Obviously, we don't want to have a link that says bad ending that we're going to have a player click on. We're going to want to use that named link feature that I put at the bottom of our 3 adventure locations, where we have text that says one thing and then it takes you to a passage called walk out the door, for example. And you know what, if the library doors, let's give us an option here. Let's say within this hook here, the library door is locked. We're going to add in another link inside that hook. So when we visit without the key, the library door is locked, and we'll give the player an option to lose the game. So we're going to I'm going to put in a double square bracket. So this is still within the hook, this else hook. First, open square bracket, close square bracket. Here, I'm going to do double square bracket. Let's say give up. And then do one of these vertical lines and bad ending. And it looks like our arrow has automatically connected. Oop. So now we have an option to go from this library passage to the bad ending where it says you lose because you gave up. And again, if we play through the game, build, play, or library. So here, yeah, if we decide to give up, we go to the passage that we, the editor, know is called bad ending. Player didn't get to see that. You lose the game that way. So, another thing that is really, really great to include in your stories, but it's not actually part of the Twine interface. You kind of have to work around is putting in pictures. And this is one that works because, again, our Twine story is an HTML document. It's just a web page, basically. In order to put pictures in, we actually have to use HTML code, so website building code. So it's going to look a little different than our regular Twine macros. And again, this is something that I have inside the document that I have on my blog. It's on one of the first pages because it's one of the things that I come back to over and over and over again. Oh, clearly not that early. Here we go. So it's this code here with the triangular brackets, image source equals whatever the file name is in quotes, and we have a width of the percentage of the screen that controls how big this is going to be. Now, rather than just an image file, I'm going to grab a link to a picture on the internet here, I think. But let's copy this code to start with. Copy that. And let's go to our library. If key is true. So that's kind of our good ending for the game. Let's add a picture as sort of a reward at the end of the game. If key is true and you open the library and read all the books, within that hook there, if key is true, I'm going to add just a couple line breaks. And I'm going to paste in that image code. So image source equals image file name. Let's make it a bigger picture. Let's make it 50% of the screen. Now, right now, if I play this, we're going to get a little error. Actually, yeah, let's just grab the key from the ocean adventure. I'll just show what happens. So test from the ocean, search shipwreck. We have the key, go to the library. Right now we have this little broken image symbol because the game is looking for image file .jpeg or whatever it was called, and it doesn't know where to find that. So I'm going to replace that with a web link. Let's just go to. Now, you want to make sure that library books, always making sure that your images. Now, this is not my, I'm just doing this as a quick example here to find a picture really quick. Copy image address. I do not recommend going to websites and hot linking to their pictures like this for anything that you're really planning to use. Gets into copyright and fair use issues. And also you don't have any guarantee that the picture will always be there at that source. So I'll show you in a moment what I normally like to do to keep these more stable, but let's just replace that for the moment with the link. So I've just quickly hot linked the image address. And let's try that one more time. Test. Grab. Go grab the key from the ocean. Go to the library. There we go. We've got a picture. Now, when I'm doing this for my own projects, and especially with students, again, rather than going online and finding pictures and copying the links to those, first I encourage my students to create their own pictures, and or if I'm doing a project on my own, I'll go to a place like Pixabay and find pictures that are fair use. But the other thing I will do is I will have the project downloaded onto my computer and saved in a folder with a copy of the image files. And for importing and exporting your Twine projects, this is also how I encourage my students to share these. If you go to, on this build tab here, publish the file, when you click that, it'll just save a copy of your Twine adventure, your Twine story as an HTML file in your downloads on your computer. And then if you want to then share that with someone else, you can email that file to someone. They can go to their Twine library and import that file into theirs if they want to edit it, or they can just click it and open it in their browser to play it. Question in the chat here, only publish the file when you're done, or can you reopen that HTML and keep working? Yeah, so you can reopen that file and keep working on it. As I'm creating stories and games and tools, I will often frequently publish the file and test play it from the file, particularly if I'm using pictures, just to make sure that those pictures are working properly. In this folder here, I have my index file, which is just what I've called the HTML document that is the game. It is the story when I open that up. And this picture that you see of cartoon me on a book there, that picture file is sitting in the same folder along with the index. And so if we crack this one open behind the scenes, here's my desktop Twine editor here. What I call those, find it among all my projects here. My presentation, there we go, interactive story examples. So my first passage of interactive story examples, here's that code from before, image source equals james_books.gif. And because it's sitting in the same folder as the HTML file, it'll work. If I sent just this index file, just this Twine game to someone, if I emailed that without the other picture being with it in the folder, it would come up as a broken picture link. Now this one also has a secret picture. If you play through both games, some of you may have found this, branch 1 is true and branch 2 is true. Those conditions are met if you play through both stories. You end up with, congrats, you explored both story examples. Here's a picture of a happy dog. And so it's a bonus picture hiding in there that if you play through the whole game, you get to see a picture of my dog. And again, that's working because dog.ping and jamesbooks.gif are both in the same folder, as the game itself. So I'll call these the assets of this game. As long as they're all in the same folder, you can send that whole folder, you can zip that up and send it to someone, and the pictures will work reliably. You don't have to worry about if you're hot linking from a website, if someone changes the pictures on their website and you lose access to them. The other way that you can share these as a teacher and an educator is you can host these online, which I only do this for once I'm sharing with other teachers. But when you visit any of these Twine stories I'm sharing from my blog here, they'll take you to this itch.io site. And I've got mixed feelings about the site. It's really good for sharing your Twine stories and games online in a way that people can quickly and easily, just click a button and be using your game or story without having to download something. I avoid using this one with my students, though. I don't have my students access any of my materials through the site or have them post on here, just because it is the internet. There's no, this is a site that's used by lots of people for making and sharing games. It's kind of like YouTube for video games. And so I just for internet safety purposes, I don't like to send my students that way. So I'm gonna say, and again, if people didn't get a chance to go through all the examples. Again, Twine is best for interactive stories and games, but you can make tools with it as well. So something I made during my time in the MET program is this Uke Composer program, which is a music composition tool for helping to write music on the ukulele while learning to play the ukulele. I'm not sure if the sound will come through. And so sound is possible on Twine. It's a little tricky. There are instructions for how to include sound in that document that, again, is on the top of my blog. And another one that I use all the time in my class is the class randomizer, which right now it's a generic version with some made up class names, but I have a version of this that I've plugged all my classes I teach, all the student names into. And if I want to have students do something in a random order, it's a really quick tool for doing that, or for drawing a name out of a hat. It's just a fun and fair and random way to do that. So all these tools also and games that I've got on my blog here, when you visit them on itch.io, I have allowed for a download. So if any of you watching this want to take any of the games, stories, tools that I've made, download your own copy, import it into Twine, see how it works, steal parts of the code, adapt it for your own means, please feel free. That's why I made sure that download link is there. Taking something that you've seen it done somewhere else and being able to get to that code and then rework it for yourself, I'm a big fan of sharing that and making that available. So I think that's covered most of the kind of the fundamentals. Did anyone have any questions about features that they saw in any of the other games or during the walkthrough? Okay. How do students share their stories on Google Classroom, for instance? Yeah, so for students sharing their stories, in my district, all the students have a Microsoft Outlook account provided through the school district, and I have them just email HTML files to me or to each other if they're sharing with each other. That way they're not posting anything on a website anywhere. Could potentially post on Google Classroom. I haven't used Google Classroom very much. The one thing that can sometimes be a stumbling block is certain file sharing services sometimes restrict sharing HTML files. I think it's a way to prevent people from trying to use like OneDrive as a free web hosting service, for example. So sometimes certain online spaces make it, we'll say you can't share this type of file, but email never fails. So that's the main way I do it. But yeah, you could try it with Google Classroom. It might allow that. Yeah. Oh yeah. Another thing that comes up quite often as a question is collaboration on Twine projects. Let me share my screen again here too. Your Twine project it's based on the computer you're working on. If you want to like email it back and forth between two people and make change by change, taking turns like that, that's it's not ideal, but it's possible. I have had someone suggest once maybe using GitHub might be a way to make it more collaborative to edit, but that's something I've never looked into myself. So yeah, it does get a little tricky when trying to do this collaboratively, unless two people are kind of sitting at the same computer brainstorming together. It doesn't lend itself well to back and forth. One thing that I have been involved in is having some people write the prose content for passages in Word or whatnot, and then having that copied and pasted by someone else into the actual Twine passages. So that is one way to collaborate. When you're copying and pasting into Twine, A really important thing to watch out for is in Twine, when you write quotation marks for any coding stuff, like here with the image source, those quotation marks in Twine come up as perfectly vertical up and down. They're not slanted right or left, which is what happens when you're in a word processor. It'll give you kind of the open quotation mark, the closed quotation mark that are slanted. And Twine treats those as different characters. So if I was trying to write some code in Microsoft Word and then pasting it into Twine, the default would be that these quotation marks would be the wrong type and the code wouldn't work. Um, so, so yeah, in the document, I've got examples of regular links that we did, named links. I showed the one with the vertical bar. You can do the exact same thing also with a little arrow. Some people find that easier to remember how to do is the text that you want said, and then that the reader sees, and then the name of the passage that you go to. There's a third type of link called a coded link, which we did from the drop-down menu earlier. And inside the hook for that, we can have the go-to macro, which does what a regular link does. It takes us somewhere else. But within that hook, we could also have set a variable to a certain value. Oh, anytime you're coding in Twine or naming passages, capitalization is really important too. It's all case sensitive. So if you have a passage named library in all caps, that's treated differently than library with just capital L, library with lowercase l. So try to be consistent. I usually try to, when I'm remembering my best practices, do all lower caps for all of my passage names, just so I don't accidentally get a difference in capitalization. Clearly, I didn't follow that strictly on this example here. Most of the text styling stuff, just do it through the menu within the Twine editor. And again, the picture stuff, if you forget where to find my document, if you just look up how to do a picture in HTML and standard web coding, it'll be this kind of code, and that'll work. Also, for those who are a little more computer coding savvy, JavaScript and CSS, you can incorporate that into Twine as well. I'm not terribly familiar with either. Even if you don't know those, I've managed to figure out some little bits of both here and there for certain projects when I really needed something to happen in a story or a game that the standard Twine Harlow language would not do for me. And again, if sound is really important, there's a basic like old HTML way, which only works on some computers, not very reliably, and it only works if you put the code at the very bottom of the passage. It's a little tricky. So there's something called the Harlow Audio Library, which is a project done by a separate group of developers who just really love using Harlow, using Twine, and wanted to add this audio functionality. So if you go to their website, which I have a link to in the documentation, they have instructions for how to incorporate sound and audio and make that be a functional part of your Twine stories. You can embed YouTube videos in your passages as well. And then, yeah, I've got lots of examples of just how to set different kinds of variables and just little reminders for things like making sure that if you're setting a variable to a text value, like a word, it's got to be in quotes. But if you want to do something, yeah, keeping track of points or money in a game, you can have what are called so you can just have the numbers by themselves. So set dollars to 0, set it to it. This is a really helpful one if you're doing anything with math or so if you have points, you can set points to it, so to itself +1. So if your points is a numerical value, so you have 5 points, if you have a link that sets points to it to itself +1, it'll add it'll do that math for you, so points will become each time you click it 6 or 7 or 8. You have complex trees of if this then that, You have text that is only revealed when something's clicked. Oh, this is the code I was trying to find earlier. So a different way to set a player name. Let's copy that code and put that in. Where'd our new adventure? So rather than write your name here with the input box, I'm going to paste in this code from my documentation. We set player name to prompt. My name is, okay, let's play this. There we go. That one's a little more fun. My name is James. Okay. And it does the same thing where we set the name. And yeah, further in the document, I have some more advanced options. Like if you want to do a game that does not have this undo button on the side, there's a way to remove that. It's in something called the sidebar. Changing the background color of your, because the standard is kind of everything's white text on a black background. If you want to change the background to a picture, that needs to be done through CSS, which actually, yeah, let's go to our Twine editor here. If you want to do any more advanced JavaScript or CSS stuff, you're going to need to go to the story tab in your editor. And then there's an area for JavaScript where you can enter a bunch of JavaScript for your story, or style sheet here. This is for your CSS. So if we wanted to, say, set the background to a certain color code here. Which one's this for? Yeah, change the background color. I'm just going to copy all this. And then this, when you're setting different colors, they're all hexadecimal colors. So each color is going to be like, just a string of numbers and letters. If you just Google hex color chooser, there's all sorts of websites. I think Google even has a built-in one where you'll have a little color grading. You just click and pick what color, and it'll automatically generate the code for what that color is. So let's try this here. We'll copy this code here. Go to our story, go to the style sheet. We'll paste that in. So it's affecting the body. So that's the background color. Looks like it's changing the font color. Let's see what that looks like when we play that passage. Oh. Build. There we go. Play. Okay, so now, yeah, so now we've got a different font type and color and background color, and this applies to the whole story at the moment. If you want to have different pages with different colors, that can be done. And again, that's all copying and pasting from this manual here. And finally, at the end, just a list. This was on my phone, on my notes app, just a running list of things to remember for next time, so I don't make the same mistakes over and over again. It's always a learning process. It's always trial and error. But the more you do it, the more you realize that if you can think of it, if you can dream it, you can do it. There are so many different macros. There's a huge library if you go to the documentation of just a massive wealth of very advanced functions. So people have programmed entire like Dungeons and Dragons style games where you go around and collect different items that give you different bonuses that help against different monsters. Like you can create a very deep, rich, and complex game within this. And it's always just been kind of a matter of searching through the documentation, finding that one, that one macro that you need to, okay, this lets me have a list of things and choose one thing from that list, or this lets me select a random thing from a list. Yeah, so I think I'll probably leave it there. I'll do another call for questions. If anyone has any and you do this in Twine sort of questions, or how did you do that in a certain story? If not, I'd say again, take the time to explore the games that I shared here. If you search on itch.io, there are lots of other Twine games that people have made. But yeah, these ones here are either, education adjacent, or at least a good introduction to some of the concepts. And again, please, for any of these, go ahead and download a copy and make it your own. Copy the code, change it up, customize it, borrow little bits here and there as you need it. And the other thing I'll say too is, if you or someone else who you get interested in this have any questions that aren't answered in the workshop, I've made sure to include my email address in this document. Feel free to send me Twine questions. Always happy to help out with a Twine puzzle. And again, yeah, please feel free to download and share this document around. Again, I'm a big proponent of sharing this knowledge around, because I just think it's a very powerful educational tool. So I was running this past year a Twine lunchtime coding club with students at my school, and it was really cool to see a lot of these kids really so engaged in writing, in creating stories, and being creative. And I think it's just a great way to find that new level of engagement, especially for some students who maybe traditional writing, it doesn't seem as appealing. But if you can kind of spin it as, well, it's more of a game now, suddenly that really clicks on a light for a lot of students. All right, then, for checking this out. And I do hope you find it interesting. I hope that you go and create your own little adventures with Twine and Story and try it out, and uh, find a way that it works for you. Again, it's such a broadly applicable program that different people find different uses for it and things that are cool with it. And so I hope that you found something of that for yourself.